This is the Joe Mangicotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
Hey, good morning and welcome to the Joe Mangicotti Show in the Sunday edition here on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. We're also live streaming on the TuneIn app. That's right, punch in WCRN anywhere on the program there, and it just punches up WCRN and you can take us anywhere. We're also live streaming on the Facebook, right, on the Facebook app. So if you go to Joe Mangi Show, Joe Mangicotti Radio Show, the camera's in the corner. Hi, how are you? But we're also streaming the audio, so that's there too. And our streaming's on. Good morning, Cam.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Doing well. All right. Surviving. Have you got the feeling that we're turning the corner on the COVID-19 situation? Do you think you feel it in the air a little bit?
I mean, yeah, I'm hopeful, but then you turn on the news and you see there's still cases going out there. My question is, who's getting sick still at this point?
Well, I don't know if too many people are getting sick. I think all the problem always actually comes down to the elderly.
Yeah.
All right, it comes down to the elderly. It comes down to nursing homes. Now we're looking closer, and this was going to happen, right? When everything, as you get by everything and through everything, you get to look at stuff a little more in detail. And we're seeing that a lot of these nursing homes, their protocols were not very good for elderly. And the numbers drilling down that, we're being told now is if you're under 50 and relatively healthy, you really had nothing to worry about in the sense of mortality. But if you were elderly and you had underlying conditions, even obesity, diabetes, kidneys issues, it was a very dangerous virus to get. So there's a lot of fallout that's going to go about this. I mean, there's the finger pointing's already started, on ventilators and why wasn't it stocked and all that's going to happen. But let's keep it all in perspective. 508-871-7000. Lines open and available to join the conversation. Do it on a Sunday morning. Call up and share something that's been on your mind in general. It doesn't have to be something I'm talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be directed at me. We do have our text line, 617-297-8388. You can text in real time, and you can also email. Text Joe on the radio at gmail.com is a way to do that as well. All right. I did want to touch on this. The Joe Biden situation is it's interesting, but what's aggravating about it is and we can't be surprised at this, folks, that the media is not covering it in the same manner and with the same zest that they would have covered it if we don't even have to do hypothetical. They certainly are not covering it the way they covered Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh's accuser was decades old too, but had no details, no witnesses, no corroboration, nothing. All right. In the Biden situation, we have a staffer, and we can put her not only with him when she says, but she spoke to her mother, her brother, and friends about it. Okay. There's a record of this conversation. And a matter of fact, the mother called in to the Larry King show on CNN back then without mentioning Biden's name, but talked about it. And that's mysteriously has disappeared, by the way, from the archives of CNN. What say you? 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Rich, thanks for holding, man. Good morning.
Morning, Joe. Yeah, I heard that tape there about the mother calling in Larry King. So It's still out there, Joe. That hasn't disappeared.
That's disappeared now, but from the CNN archives, by the way. I mean, people have it.
Yeah, but
But
was
if you
on-
go to get it on the CNN archives, you can't find it anymore.
Oh yeah, not there, but I know you can get it off of Fox. Because Fox, they did.
Yeah, but the point being that CNN has scrubbed it.
Oh yeah, have to.
You know,
Have to.
and none of these media people have asked Joe Biden directly about it, where they had no problem asking Kavanaugh or Trump or any other Republican or non-member of their Gapalia. So you have basically Democratic activist journalists who won't ask Joe Biden the question.
Of course not. He's in his dugout anyway.
You know?
Yeah, it's like World War II. Remember Dugout Doug?
Yeah, and well, it's a little before my time, but the point is, if they did ask him, right? If they did ask him, Rich, well, all of a sudden there would be a problem with the Skype or the internet or something. And it would just end, you know?
Yeah.
Or Joe Biden has demonstrated his inability to handle any kind of, not even confrontation, just a question. Remember when the auto worker was asking him, wasn't antagonizing him, he was just and he was a supporter. Now, remember, going into the conversation, the auto worker is a Democrat and a Biden supporter, and he asks him a question, and Biden threatens the man. Threatens him. He did it with the 82-year-old veteran who said about being in shape. You want to do, let's go out back. And I mean, what is it with this guy? I mean, right there. Look, I've said this before, folks, and I'm not being mean spirited, and I'm not.
Hey, no, you're not.
I'm
because
just
it's out there.
saying. Look, if you can't tell that there's a cognitive issue with Joe Biden, you don't want to see it. You're fluffing over it, and you're assuming that people around him. I said this last week, and I'm going to continue to say it. Joe Biden's vice presidential pick is going to be so important, not just because of the obvious, but it's going to be important because everybody, whether they say it aloud and they admit it or not, they know that that person's a heartbeat or a psychological exam away from the Oval Office. And so it's very important. So people, whether they're consciously talking about it and saying it outright, blatantly talking about it, they know that the vice presidential pick is a very important pick for Joe Biden because if he was ever to somehow get elected, there's a good chance he wouldn't complete. Never mind a second term, he probably wouldn't complete the first.
He won't make it. He won't make it. They're going to take him out under Article 25. But the thing,
right, and move the second person up. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
So it's so important that when he picks this vice presidential candidate, for all intents and purposes, you're picking that person for president, more so than you have in any other presidential election.
Right. The thing that I started talking about real quick yesterday, right? We didn't have enough time. All right. There's a doctor out there, and basically what he did, Joe, right? He had a machine, and like I said, if somebody had like cancer or different problems with their blood, he would put their blood through an ultraviolet machine, and he would purify the blood, get rid of it, okay? Now, this has been out there for over 20 years. I think Trump started talking about that a little bit the other day. But the other thing, too, I don't know if you ever heard of Royal Raymond Rife. He was an inventor. What he did, he invented the electronic microscope, right? And he could actually see viruses. And what he did, he developed a system through radio waves, right? Because most of the cancer cells are crystalline, right? And if you have a certain frequency, which you can do, you can destroy the cancer cells. And that's what he did, Joe. He developed a system where he could actually see the viruses. He could actually see them being destroyed by radio waves. And what they did is the AMA, the American Murder Association, they came in, and what they did is they put him out of business. He had 3 machines. What they did is they took 2, they destroyed it. There's another one out there someplace. They're hiding it. Not the government, but the people who took it. And it's out there. I've got a rice machine here at home. All right, they're kind of expensive, but they work.
So the rice machine is using radio or frequency waves to kill it. Well, actually, I've heard about radio wave in sound technology being used to cure certain things. I mean, sound is used on a regular basis for kidney stones and things of that
Right.
nature. So,
Did you ever see on TV there when you have that Memorex, that woman there, she used to hit a high pitch and had
and break the glass.
break the glass with just the pitch from the sound from her voice. Well, this is what Royal Raymond Rife discovered. And there's also another guy. He was a pharmacist, and he owned a farm, big, huge farm. And some of the horses and stuff in the cows that had cancer, he noticed that they would go way out in the field and they would eat certain weeds, right? I believe it was Persiline. And what they did is they ate it, and when they came back, their cancer was cured. And what he did, he came out with a product. I don't remember the guy's name, but I know I'm sure you get some, listeners out
What
there.
was the weed name again? That he
Persiline. Persiline. It probably grows in your backyard if you can find it. But the thing is, right? I mean, he found the cure, and what they did, the AMA again, they put him out of business because they cannot find a cure for cancer. Think about this.
I've always said that the multi-billion-dollar industry that cancer cure, well, not even cancer cure and cancer treatment is an incredibly large industry. Many thousands of people would be put out of work, and just billions of dollars would be lost.
Oh, of course, and that's why I say to myself, I mean, if you get cancer, you might as well forget it. What they're going to do is they're going to treat the symptom, but they'll never give you the cure. So if you're lucky enough, after they give you the treatment that you can survive, you call yourself lucky, because I'll tell you what, if they can put a man on the moon and spend trillions of dollars doing that, but they can't find a cure for a virus, come on, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can be naive at sometimes, but I'm not.
Well, I mean, even
naive.
HIV hasn't been cured, but now you do PrEP. So they basically have a vaccine, right? But see, they get to sell you every month. They get to sell you a prescription. So they encourage people who are sexually active before they're settled down or whatever. You should get on PrEP and take this drug, Decovia, or something like that. Take this, and they've and it's not cheap. So that's about $1,800 a month, $1,200, whatever it is. So, but your doctor will put you on it. If you go to your doctor, they'll prescribe it, because if they prevent you from getting the HIV virus, they save thousands of dollars in treatment. So, like anything else, the pharmaceutical company perfectly happy to treat this like that, and same thing with the cancer, right? Because you've got the chemo, you've got the drugs, you've got the radiation treatments, you've got industry, an entire industry built around that. And if the aliens were to land tomorrow and say, you primitive, stupid race, here, just take this weed, and it grows right on your planet, and it solves it.
Right.
Look at what would happen. And there are other things. Look at, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I think we were talking about something. It is illegal for a doctor to claim they have cured you or cured an illness if it hasn't come from the American, the MAA for one, but if FDA hasn't approved it, if the government hasn't stamped it as an official drug, they cannot use the words cure, even though they may have cured you. There are doctors who put you on regimens of vitamins and diets and exercise and literally remove all trace of cancer from you, but they cannot say they cured you. They will lose their license.
Look what they did to Dr. Atkins. Remember Dr. Atkins, the Atkins diet?
From the Atkins diet.
Yeah, from the Atkins diet. Well, he had a whole bunch of patients, right? They kept coming back to him and coming back, and finally said, Doc, don't you ever believe in vitamins or something like that? So what he did, all right, after about 40 years of being a doctor, he started investigating, and he says, whoa, wait a minute here, right? So he started treating his patients with vitamins. You know what they did? Once he started telling them, they took his license away. Yeah. Imagine that?
Yeah. They don't want anything holistic like that. That's not like that. But I do got full lines, Rich. Anything else
I'll
you
let
want
you
to touch
go.
on?
You have a great day, Joe.
You too. All right, man. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And we are streaming on Facebook, so we're picking up a few watchers. So that's awesome. Hello, Facebook watchers. Mark in Worcester, how are you, man? Thanks for holding.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You sound well this morning.
Well, thank you. Well rested, I can say that.
Well rested.
Yeah.
Yeah, drink tonic water.
720.
Got quinine in it.
Okay. Oh, you're just telling me that time? All right, got it.
Well, I mean, it's a suggestion.
No, to Cam said something in my ear, Mark, but that's okay. Oh yeah, quinine. You know what? When you got cramps, right? Isn't that good for Charlie horses and stuff?
Good
Quinine?
for that. It's people who have liver trouble.
Yeah,
The quinine water. Very simple.
yeah. That's the
tonic water.
the tonic
Just
water.
Drink quinine.
Yeah, yeah. I used to
The
get.
British used to drink it to mix it with their gin and tonic when they were in charge of the Raj in India, which is infested with malaria. And they would drink the quinine water to fend off the malaria. And hydroquinine, whatever it is, that's a anti-malarial drug. Get the connection?
Yeah, hydrochloroquine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the name quinine, chloroquine.
Yep.
Anyways, they're administering. There's a place in a famous medical research place in Marseille, France. Okay, and they're saying that they put out that they're having success with the use of hydroquinine on patients. You know what they do? They give you an EKG.
Yeah.
Before they administer the hydroquinine.
And
They
then
give you an EKG.
and then see the difference.
Then they give it to you. And if you get better, 2 days later, they give you another EKG.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying they're having success with it. They give you an EKG before they give it to you.
Now this is the same drug that the president said he's heard good things about it and he's got a good feeling about it. And of course, the media and everybody on the left in the media collectively, he can't. And we've been using that for 60 years, by the way. It's been an approved drug that we've used.
In Vietnam.
And exactly. And all of a sudden, it's evil. It kills people. You've got the governor of Michigan saying that they will prosecute any doctor that prescribes it, which right there, I don't think that any politician should ever be able to tell doctors what they can or cannot prescribe. In other words, they're not doctors themselves. That's not their role. Leave that, when it comes to treatment, it always should be left between you and your doctor. The government should never, ever have a role in your treatment. This is why single-payer insurance or the government running our insurance scares me, because you're going to have non-medical bureaucrats making decisions as to whether or not you get medication or treatments that you need. That should always be a conversation and a decision made between a physician and the patient, and the government should not have anything to do with that.
And why you brought up CNN. Why does CNN is a bilge pump? You know what a bilge pump is, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a boat.
And they're corrupt. They're corrupt. Let's face it, they're corrupt. They're a corrupt bilge pump. They're in the pockets of the, you name it. The pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies, they're being paid off.
Look hey Mark, we know this, right? We saw this when Donna Brazil gave the questions too. We can see the coverage. They underestimate the typical, right? Because we're all deplorables. And now Joe Biden, by the way, the new term is, I don't know if you caught this the other day, he referred to all of Trump's supporters and people who don't agree with him as dregs of society. That's this presidential term. Last in 2016, it was deplorables. This time around, dregs of society. That's what Biden called us the other day.
He's calling everybody, people who live in glass houses. He's calling everybody a dreg, just like Hillary called all Trump supporters the basket of deplorables. Yep. Who on the mainstream media is taking that woman seriously that made that allegation against Biden that he sexually assaulted her?
Yep. Now,
where's that story?
My point exactly. They've lost. See, this is another example why they don't understand why they're not trusted. Why they laugh at CNN and MSNBC, because we see this woman who has dates, names, locations. She talked to people about it, has witnesses, everything that wasn't there against Kavanaugh is there in this case, and the media is not doing their job. They're not doing their job. Where is the Me Too movement in the Now crowd, in the Nazi feminists? Where are they all? Why are they not outraged? Why are they not demanding that this man do not run for president, right? They were upset with Kavanaugh. He's running for the highest court in the land. Well, Joe Biden's running for the highest office in the land. Why is he not being called on the carpet and to have to answer for these accusations? Because if it's coming from the other direction, Mark, all women must be listened to and we must believe them, right? That's what we were told. We were told that with anything to do with Trump. We were told that with Brett Kavanaugh, but we're not told that with Joe Biden. They will not ask that man a straight out question. Tara Reid. Who is she? What did you do with her? Why is she saying that? Nobody will ask her. And Tara Reid has all of the information to make it an absolute merit a conversation. It merits a conversation, and they won't have that conversation. And this is why, Mark, this is why they don't, why people just, CNN is on in airports, right? And maybe a gym or two. Who is purposely paying to get CNN? I don't know anybody that pays, right? Matter of fact, people are dropping the boxes. They're cutting the cords. CNN's major revenue has come to the fact that they get a couple of shekels from every cable subscription because they're on cable, right? They're a cable news network. It's right in the friggin' name. So that's where they get their revenue from. But as people drop their cable subscriptions because everybody's going to streaming, their shekels are dropping. And their income's dropping. And they're not up on the air because they make millions, never mind billions like other networks do, in advertising. Who are their advertisers? They can't get...
Pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. It's like, who's the main... You watch NBC, MSNBC... Every other commercial is for a drug. Am I right or am I wrong?
That's true. For crying out loud, most of all TV, I mean, drug commercials are like every other commercial, regardless of what network I'm watching.
It's very simple. You just follow the money. You connect the dots. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a forensic accountant to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Anything else, Mark? We're coming to the bottom of the hour. Mark? Did we lose him? Okay. All right, Mark. I didn't hang up on you, Mark. If it went away. Gene, good morning, Gene. Thanks for holding. I know you've been on for 12 minutes.
I've been holding since yesterday.
No, you went on Gary's show. I know you did. I know you did.
Well, you had so many callers, Joe, and I'm telling you, you just said something passionately, all right, and Mark, we were talking about you the other day. Also, the great callers, the authentic callers.
Oh, you mean on Jerry's show?
Oh,
yeah. That was a good conversation.
It's Joe. You can't get this. It's Radio Free America, and I passionately, as you know, when you have to get that, there's levels of different timings of different things to cry out about.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the verse that that was handed to me several years ago, back when, Joe, because I mean, I don't have any guts, I don't have any balls, everybody. It's called obedience for God, okay? Mm-hmm. So I was fighting with God because, Joe, Hey, Gene. I gave them all the men.
Gene, you can hold on, honey, but we've got to break because it's 30 minutes after the hour, and that means it's time for case files from the LPDAM. So check in with myself, actually, and Sean Burke, who is president of the LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Legal Investigation. So for this week's edition of Case Files from the LPDAM, and I'll be back on the other side here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Stick with us. Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at actual cases, the law and lessons from the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and joining us this week is Sean Burke, president of the LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Legal Investigation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Welcome back, and I thought that we'd get right to it this week, and one of the things I thought we should do is look at some of the services that private investigators do offer outside of those that people normally think of. Fidelity investigations, even legal investigations. Can you give us an example of some of the other services that private investigators can offer here in the Commonwealth?
Well, Joe, one of the things the Massachusetts Private Investigator License offers the public is executive protection services. Unfortunately, we live in a world that has some bad actors in it. When a bad actor believes he or she has been affected by a decision or somehow insulted by a third party, they seem to have more difficulty with controlling their anger than the average person. So with that said, Joe, they look to blame someone for how they feel or their circumstances. It appears to be most common when a person is fired or laid off. The bad actor starts to focus on one or two individuals that they blame for no longer being employed. In some cases, these bad actors begin to harass their targets and often capable of committing violent acts against their targets. Businesses have a responsibility to protect these employees. Joe, back in 2000, there was an interesting case at Edgewater Technology, a Wakefield company, where an employee was fired, went home, got his guns, and returned to the business and killed 7 innocent individuals. It was a terrible tragedy that may have been avoided if executive protection services were implemented at the time of the firing. It was reported that the perpetrator was known to be unstable at Edgewater, and employees later disclosed that they were afraid of the perpetrator and what he might do if released from the company. As an employer, if you have to ask yourself this question, then it is obvious that executive protection services are required. Edgewater Technologies is not an isolated incident in our society. I'll give you one example where I was involved in protecting an executive in a downtown well-known business where they laid off a bad actor and he threatened the HR employee and the CFO of the company. We were brought in to provide executive protection services and locate the bad actor. The bad actor's whereabouts were unknown, and that placed a lot of fear into the business, well beyond the original threats, including blowing up the company. We had 3 teams of investigators working around the clock in protecting the threatened employees and the business location. A second team providing surveillance services at the bad actor's house, and a third team working with law enforcement focused on locating him. As it turns out, our efforts paid off, Joe, because we located the bad actor in New York City. The bad actor attempted to do a suicide by cop. He approached a New York City police officer from behind and attempted to steal the officer's gun. The officer fortunately overcame the bad actor and all were safe. This was a guy who the company suspected he wouldn't respond well to a high-intensity situation like being laid off. They did something about it, and it likely saved lives. Joe, I would like to add, we are seeing a rise in executive protection services by individuals. These are usually potential domestic violence victims. Our members report that when a bad actor may view a restraining order as a piece of paper versus a serious order, executive protection offers the victim safety until everything calms down. It is a smart way to protect yourself. Remember, the law enforcement by design is reactive. LPDM member businesses are proactive by design. Joe, executive protection services, as well as many other services, are offered to your listeners at lpdam.org. Our members care about their clients and are vetted by the Massachusetts State Police. Remember, Joe, you're in good hands when you use an LPDM member business. We look forward to working with you.
Well, that's fantastic, Sean. And I actually remember that case. It was a financial company, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
All right, and they can also just go to the Find an Investigator tab on the lpdam.org site.
Yes, Joe, that's the easiest way to find an expert in the field that one of your listeners may be looking for.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week on WCRN 8:30 a.m. and online anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com. Visit us at lpdam.org, and you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PIN Mass and anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean Burke, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
My boyfriend pays my bills. My ex-husband pays for my good times.
A recent change in the law can reduce or eliminate your alimony payments if it's proven your ex-spouse is cohabitating. Call Clandestine Investigative Services to find out about your ex.
I've been working 3 years under the table now. Court ordered child support. What they don't know about, I don't pay.
Is your ex concealing income from you to avoid paying child support? Call Clandestine Investigative Services. We'll get you the facts.
Call now, 508-296-5445. That's 508-296-5445. Or click newenglandinvestigators.net. That's neinvestigators.net.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know.
right, folks, welcome back to the second half and final segment of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. We're live streaming on the TuneIn app and Facebook as well. So you can go to Joe Mangiacotti Radio Show or Joe Mangi Show and get the audio. And there's a camera up in the corner. Hello, Facebook people. And get the show in all those manners. It is also, all shows are put up as a podcast at joemangishow.com or go to tjmshow.com and you can find it there. All right, so a lot of stuff going on. Look at, this is also pretty disgusting out there because Democrats, they're going to censure Detroit State Senator Karen Whitsett because of her support of hydroxychloroquine, which is the drug that the president mentioned a couple weeks ago. She got COVID-19, used it, recovered, and did fantastic, thanked the president. Because she thanked the president, they're censuring her. Let that sink in for a second. If that isn't Orwellian, if that isn't Cold War Soviet Union stuff, what is? Think about that. The party is going to censure her because she thanked the president of the opposing party. Isn't that crazy? And think about the overreach of the governors during this entire time that has been going on. Right? So this pandemic hits. I think the coverage got a little hyped. I think the numbers have been inaccurate from day one because they were inaccurate coming out of Wuhan, China. They were inaccurate coming out of the party, CCP. They lied to us and tried to manipulate the situation and then had their puppets, WHO, go out there and parrot their lies. But the Democrats seized this. Pelosi seized this opportunity to stick all kinds of Green New Deal fluff and bogus stuff into the packages because she figured they would get elected or get elected on and pass because they would never, ever pass muster in a debate in the light of day. And the Democrats' response to this crisis was to give themselves a raise. It was to close gun shops and churches, ban potentially life-saving drugs like hydroxychloroquine, fund the Kennedy Center and NPR. Oh, but they had to keep abortion clinics open, which, by the way, is probably one of the, if not the most racist organization set up on the planet. But the Democrats don't talk about that. That's a whole other show. Sanger, right? Who started Planned Parenthood? Why are they all in urban areas? Then they decided, on top of it, they would release felons, but they're going to lock up citizens. So we're going to release the felons, people from jails and prisons because of COVID-19, where they're telling us we should shelter in place and not have a lot of contact, which is kind of the definition of prison. But if you don't wear a mask when we tell you to, or you go fishing by yourself in the middle of Lake Michigan, we're going to throw you in jail. And all through all this, they want to subsidize illegals as well. Oh, and let's investigate Trump again while we're at it. That's how the Democrats have been responding to this pandemic. 508-871-7000, lines open and available. Gene, you held on.
Of course.
Of course. I can count on that.
Joe, let me tell you, WCRN, the men of WCRN, I was asked to carry the sign. You must have heard Gary say, we're going to get you to carry the sign. And, you know, Joe, I called the sign company the other day. They're not there, but I reached the owner.
Wait a minute. Did we tell, Gary told you to carry the sign, but you got to go get your own sign? We're not even going to give you the sign?
You know what? I don't even, Joe, it's the least I could do for you guys. Are you listening to me? This is Radio Free America.
I have some banners, Gene. You can carry the banners. I'll give them to you. Don't worry about it. All right.
Okay.
Where are you going to carry them? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Look, right on Route 9. And I'll tell you something. Next, listen to this, everybody. I went over to Bernie and Phil's one day because when I first was welcomed to this station, and I've got to finish something up about Joe Biden also, so please let me do that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's an analogy of what... It's the same analogy of the cult that's going on, Joe. So let me make sure I get that in, everybody.
All right, so let's move along. You went to Bernie and Phil's, which is right down the street from the station.
Okay. And I went over there, and I said, could I please meet Bernie, who owns Bernie and Phil's? I thought he was right there at the store.
No.
But they have a big flag up right next to you guys, okay? Look at that flag. Look at this. When I said Radio Free America and saw that flag, I went, oh, what a confirmation when I was driving in. The first time I came in there, and I went over and I said, I want to thank him. I want to thank him that he's got that magnificent flag up. And look at where you guys are. Look at the confirmation of that. Praise Jesus. Do I hear it, anybody out there who has eyes to see and ears to hear?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you know that Bernie passed away, right?
Well, he was alive when I was...
Huh?
I thought it was Phil.
Bernie, it's actually Bernie Rubin, founder of Bernie and Phil's, dies of coronavirus. So he passed from the coronavirus. Now, the Westboro store, that built, we go back, when that was built, that was actually my old business partner, and I did that with Darwin Development. We built that building, you know.
Oh, Joe, I'm telling you, what a confirmation. But, Joe, when I went over there, he was alive, and they were getting the message to him, and I got to witness to everybody there. And you see how God works in mysterious ways, because who knew about this coronavirus other than I knew that biblically we were going to have the judgment start in the United States, and this was all going to be part of it, because that's what God told me to cry out loud. Spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet and show the people their transgressions. That verse was handed to me the next day after I fought with God. And Joe, I'm telling you, that's another confirmation from God, right from the Bible. I mean, praise Jesus, how he works in mysterious ways. Now, Joe Biden. Joe, are we ready? Because we know, you just said the money factor, everybody rich, God love you. That's exactly what's going on. Follow the money in this country. How evil you big boys are. I'm telling you, Joe, and they're in a cult. That the cult that thinks, as long as I'm in the cult, I'm going to be here. I'll have a good life. And what about your eternity, big boys, where you're going to burn in hell for everything that you're doing? And they do want to kill me, Joe. They do want me. They trust me when I tell you this. If a minister admits it, okay, he wishes I was dead. Tell me something, Joe. You don't tell me that the prophets were killed, stoned, and everything else. Do you know that as a Christian, because I'm 2 octaves higher, Jeannie, you've been picked on for everything, just like Trump, because standing for the Constitution, and he does stand for God in a particular way where he protects, okay, just like they said this morning. Okay, which was wonderful. They opened up an eye-opening situation about Trump. Now, he's a pig with the immorality. If I didn't say that, then I'm a liar, because I had to repent, and I don't want anyone frying in hell. Okay, thank you. They picked on me, Joe, for being 2 octaves higher at times for Jesus. But yet in the churches, drinking, drugging, adultery, fornication. This is in the churches. Homosexuality, pedophilia. Right. Everything's going on, Joe. They will turn a blind eye to that and not protect the soul, Joe, for the money. For the money.
All right, so Gene, let's take a breath and calm down. So you're saying that you acknowledge that President Trump isn't the most moral guy. I mean, he stepped out on wives. He's been married multiple times. Had affairs. Is that what you're saying? You acknowledge that?
Joe,
Bad.
He also never claimed to be a Bible-believing.
No, he's never said that. Look at, and I've always said this, Gene, look at, everybody knew exactly who Donald Trump was when we elected him president.
Right.
We knew what he was. And what he was an international businessman, international playboy. He had multiple wives. He loved to be with different women. He was, by definition, a playboy. We know that, and we know all of his business practices. But we also knew that with the choice that we had in front of us, right, we had a choice, and the choice was this businessman who we think can get it done. And not only do we think that he can get it done, we also know that he loves this country. And he isn't coming out. He's never held an elected position before, and he's never, he's not beholden to any special interest group or any PAC or anything, but he has been saying for decades what the problem has been, and that China has been the problem, and that the trade imbalance has been the problem, and we haven't been treated fair. You can go back, you can find tapes from videos of him in interviews talking in the 80s and the 90s and in the 2000s, long before he entertained being president of the United States. His position has been consistent. His solution has been consistent. He's been saying the same thing for literally decades, Gene. Decades he's been saying the same thing.
And Joe, one of the things, and thank you for reiterating that, because we do need history lessons, and we do have to regress into, what he is about. But you see, you have Joe Biden, okay? And this is for Joel also, Joel, because I know Joel has a problem with me and Joanne. Joanne is a great caller. Oh, my God. I don't know why you're affected by that, because she's standing up for what's right in the Constitution and everything else and taking stands. Joe, all of the callers are absolutely fantastic, but here we are with Joe Biden. Here we are with Nancy Pelosi, and this is where I'll stand up for Trump. 2 scoops of ice cream, and Nancy Pelosi is covered with it in her mansion. Joe, here we have nobody moving the finger for that, because they're in the cult and you all want to belong so bad and sell your soul. And then we have Joe Biden doing everything, okay? And here's the woman that's saying, hello, I have the proof. Just like I have the proof on stuff.
I got to tell you something. That thing with the ice cream in front of the $24,000 refrigerator, well, literally people down the street from her gated, fenced mansion overlooking the San Francisco Bay, defecating in the street and living under bridges, and the inequity of that, and the gap there in the living and the income that happens, because not just San Francisco but all of California has been headed in that direction, right? The middle class is totally disappearing. Those middle class are moving to Arizona and Texas, and California is going to be left with either the ultra super rich from the Hollywood industry or the high tech industry, and the very, very poor, and the middle class is basically gone. Gene, thank you so much for the call. 508-871-7000. Greg in Princeton. Good morning, sir. Thank you for holding.
Hey, good morning, guys. That's certainly a tough act to follow, but I will give her a praise Jesus on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you, just a quick story. I'm in a trade union in Boston. Of course, Mayor Walsh shut us down, and they're conspired to destroy the greatest economy in our nation's history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working at Logan and in a trade union doing some work, and every day I'm seeing the Hainan plane coming in from China, and I'm seeing all these planes coming in at the international terminal, and I'm saying to myself, when are they going to stop this with when it was just in its infancy? Rhode Island had a case, but we didn't have a case yet.
Yeah.
And then when the president did do it, all the Democrats called him a xenophobe, and they said that how dare he, and this and that. And then all of a sudden, if you listen to him now, it's the president didn't act soon enough.
Yes.
It's unbelievable how they flip flop. And the frustrating thing to me is that if give credit where credit's due. If he didn't do that initially, this would have been a whole lot worse. So I'll listen to more callers, but I just want to remind people about that. Just the hypocrisy of these people.
Well, Craig, you're
NIMBY attitude.
Craig, you're 100% right
really
on
are.
that. Because, he does this and they're all over him. And remember what was going on, because Pelosi et al. Were more concerned with the impeachment stuff going on then. And Trump does this. He gets a ration of crap about it, right? They're coming at him from all ends. Now, you got Pelosi up there saying the only thing she can grasp on now is she's trying to say that the testing issue. And the other day, she comes on about he's totally messed up the testing. This is all his fault. They're trying to figure out the best way that they can. Remember in the very beginning, they tried to actually call this the Trump virus. I don't know if you remember that, Craig. They literally tried to put the term Trump virus onto this, and that didn't even stick. And then Wahoo. So then the correct police came in and said, we can't call it the Wuhan virus. Well, why not? We call it the Spanish fly.
Well, I remember when that reporter came up with the phrase "kung flu" and tried to say that the administration had said it when he created it himself, and it's just they'll go to the unscrupulous media,
absolutely.
The fake news will go to no depths to try to besmirch this guy.
And I got to tell you, I think
sad state of affairs. But one high note on it before I hang up is I'll just mention. They delayed the opening of the Wachusett Reservoir and the Quabbin Reservoir for fishing this year, and it wasn't supposed to open until May 9th. Quabbin is still closed to my knowledge, but they did open up the Wachusett Reservoir for fishing on Wednesday, so a little earlier than their initial prediction. So that is open, so that's a recreational thing people can do. And they've also reinstated the spring turkey hunting. So
I got to tell you,
I think everybody is forgetting about the deer ticks. So still, everybody's concentrating on wearing their masks and stuff. But just remember what you're gardening and everything. Don't forget about the Lyme disease and the deer ticks.
Well,
certainly go fishing and hunting, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. The thing that I don't understand is it's very clear. We understand that vitamin D, sunshine, warmth, all of this is bad for the virus, good for us. So why would we not encourage getting out to the parks and getting out into the waterways and fishing and getting in the sunlight? That's a very good thing. I mean, this whole back in 1917, they kind of discovered, and it was nurses who discovered that the patients that they took out of the hospital and they would wheel the patients suffering from the Spanish virus into the sunlight, and they got better and they healed better and they recovered. Some of them recovered, period, but faster and better if they were out in the sunlight. I mean, that was just, they figured that out 100+ years ago. They figured that out. So I didn't understand this. I don't understand why the governor of Michigan won't allow you to go fishing in Lake Michigan. It's just an overreach, and I hope that people take a good look at the actions and behavior of these governors. We talked about it yesterday. The fact that we have governors saying things like Constitution's above my pay grade, or I didn't even think of the Constitution when I issued these orders. Well, that's okay, Governor, because we do think about it, and we have judges who think about it. That's the role of the judiciary branch of the government, is to think about that. So we'll take care of that, and they need to be challenged. But it's just ridiculous, some of the actions of these governors and how they've responded to this. All right, a couple more notes that I made to myself about this. So the Trump administration, he has been redirecting the funds that he did cut from the WHO, the World Health Organization, and he's funneling those to the Red Cross and the Samaritan Purse. The Mediterranean Purse is the hospital that they put up in New York, and that was the first one that they actually put up in the United States. Samaritan's Purse has done these hospitals and treated outbreaks and illnesses all over the globe. And it is a religious organization behind it. Yes, absolutely. So I'm sure that Trump is going to get attacked because of separation of church and state. Somewhere along the line, someone's going to have a problem with that, even though they're doing good work, or as some might even say, God's work. Meanwhile, Senator Marsha Blackburn, she introduced a Stop COVID Act to Congress. Now, this will hold China financially and legally responsible for the lies that they did, right? They did not handle this well. They lied about it. They tried to orchestrate it, and they tried to, and whether it was, and the question is always going to float out there, folks, right? You're going to have the question, was this an accident that got released, or did they purposely release it? If it was an accident, they certainly did a good job in messing things up in the United States and trying to hurt Trump with that. But nonetheless, to hold responsible for those lies, it will allow Americans to sue China in the U.S. court, not the world court. So there's a difference. It will allow Americans to sue China in a U.S. court and seek the compensation for the harm that they've caused by this virus. Now, Senator Tom Cotton, he said that we should boycott China-made goods to the best of our ability. Now, I don't know how that's going to play into the trade agreement. Now, this trade agreement, remember, is China pledging to buy a certain amount of American product and us them. But there is also some clauses in there that if this was an act of God, if it was just simply a mistake in nature, that they can not honor all of those terms. If it was released purposefully, not only did they not get out of the trade agreement, but it opens up the whole door of a biochemical attack. All right. So to the best of ability, 100% immigration into the United States is temporarily halted. It is the perfect opportunity for the president to strengthen and fix our broken immigration system. All right. So he's taking this opportunity to stop immigrant. Now, not the workers that come over for the farm and all that. He's talking about people who are coming over seeking green cards, to put a halt to that for now. I don't know how that affects people getting married. I'd like to know what that role is, how that works out in that. All right. But a couple more notes that I made to myself. Those, like I said, funds from the World Health Organization, what say you on that? Whether that should have been something that we should have done a while ago. I think this whole thing has drawn attention to a couple things. One is the supply chains. Exactly where our products, especially our vaccinations, our prescriptions, our chemicals come from, as well as very vital medical equipment, right? Just like we have to maintain a certain amount of steel made in this country and military supplemental equipment, I think that we have to really look at the supply chain there as well. Okay. All right. Has anybody forgotten about Adam Schiff? All right. Because he secretly issuing subpoenas to phone carriers and publishing private call records for political rivals during the impeachment sham. This has been a gross abuse of power. Adam Schiff should be investigated immediately. That has dropped by the wayside. You know, this whole pandemic has been eclipsing a lot of things. And I'm very sick of Hollywood elite telling us what to think. Right? The WHO sponsored that One World concert, right? Remember that last week, right? Taylor Swift and Beyonce, Oprah. And they praised, this is the thing that gets you, right? They praised the Chinese propagandist, the head of the WHO, who was put in there by China, basically, sponsored by China. Put him out there as a superstar. Well, they asked Americans to give money while America itself is stopping funding it. And we gave them about $240+ million a year. For fiscal year 18 and 19, it was $483 million that we gave to the World Health Organization. And Hollywood elites go out and they throw in this world concert thing, and they try to tell us to feel bad if we don't give money to that. Their one function in the world, people, the World Health Organization, like their number one purpose to exist is to stop and not allow world pandemics. And they failed miserably. All right. That's it. Former President Barack Obama, presidential frontrunner Joe Biden. Well, under investigation for sexual assault. Where are we going to go with the Tara Reade? I think we should all demand the same coverage that they gave Brett Kavanaugh and they would give Donald Trump. All right, folks, this is actually going to wrap it up for the weekend edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I hope you enjoyed Faith in America earlier. I'll be back Thursday at 11 o'clock for Making Money Last with Jerry Doherty for Political Thursday. Also, check out our website, joemangishow.com or tjmshow.com, our Facebook page and social media at Joe Mangi. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe, everybody. Have a fantastic week ahead of you. I hope you get to get out a little bit. Safely get out a little bit. Take care.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
The following is a paid program.
Special report coronavirus update. I'm Christopher Cruz. Aggressive coronavirus testing is underway in New York.